Alright guys, next up for the Wailing in the Caverns mini-set is Mage. So here we have the Frostweave Dungeoneer. So this is one of the 3 Dungeoneers. And this one has the effect of draw a spell. If it's a frost spell, summon 2 1/1 elementals that freeze. So pretty cool effect. We've seen cards that summon 1/1 elementals with freeze before. We had from a previous set a 5-cost 3/4 that summons 2 1/1 with freeze. That didn't really see play just built in deck, but was a cool effect. So really, if you think of that, the 1/1 elementals with freeze is the key thing. So having this for 3 cost, if you activate the effects, is much better than that 5 mana alternative. But dependent on drawing with frost spells. So we have a few just from this set already. Frost spells. We had Flurry, which is a good tempo card. But doesn't really see much play because you can't really justify it unless you have enough card draw to have it. We also have Oasis Ally, which is the secret, which is a powerful one if you're playing in a minion-based deck. But you also have Brain Freeze and Snap Freeze. So the 1-cost ones combo deal 3 damage on 1. If a minion's already frozen, kill it. So you do have some frost spell synergy, but overall not enough, And some of the key ones, I suppose we might be running like Wildfire, Ruined Orb from this set alone, or Fireball, or Devolving Missiles. None of them are frost either. So it's not really enough cards to justify a frost deck. I suppose if you were running a limited pool of spells and you wanted more of a minion-based deck, and then taking advantage of the 5 mana 5/5 that gives with spell damage 2 that gives all of your subsequent minions spell damage Aegwynn. Maybe if you're running a minion heavy deck that runs mostly frost spells but with discover tools so that you can discover more burden along the way, you'd probably still want to run the Ruined Orb though, honestly you'd probably still want to run Fireballs too. But maybe you could find some way to make that kind of a minion potential deck that's mostly frost spells. Maybe there's a way for that to work if there's only a few spells where this effect wouldn't activate and you're trying to get more minion heavy. Maybe you're trying to have the 4 mana 3/5 that summons 2 mana worms off spell burst. Maybe you can have a more minion centric one to make this work, but generally I don't see this working that much. But there's definitely room for exploration with Mage, and maybe running just a card where it's more minion based, and if for most of the time it just draws a spell for 3 mana 2/3, maybe that's okay if you're trying to be more minion heavy. I think there's potential to explore with Mage. It's mostly been spell Mage, it's just warped the meta. But now that it's kind of weaker, I think there is potential for more of a Mage minion-based deck. But we'd have to see how things expand. Because whenever I played those sorts of decks before, they generally sort of ran out of value against something like a Priest or a Warlock. But we'll see how things, go out in the next expansion. And they also would kind of lose to things like Rogue 2 and just inconsistencies. Because if you're running that kind of minion heavy that wants to take advantage of Aegwynn, getting spell damage on all of the minions that you run, if you don't draw Aegwynn, then you're kind of screwed as well. So not sure this card will see much play, but interesting if there's ever more frost spell synergy in future sets. Then we have, of course, we also have Rhyme Tongue here. Another, so there's potential if you, again, in the future, if there's more frost-based. We do have another frost synergy spell that's been added in Shattering Blast, which is destroy all frozen minions. So, of course, this works, as you can see, Varden there in the picture. This works with Varden Dawngrasp as a 7 mana kill all your opponent's board, and if you're in a minion heavy deck with lots of frost spells, maybe you can play Varden and have more synergy. Varden already is kind of a solid, you know, minion 3/3 body Frost Nova. But again, there hasn't been a correct deck for it to play. But maybe there's enough of these to eke together a deck, but I don't think there is. Shattering Blast, powerful combo effect, but again, with these kind of combo matching spells with other effects, you need enough card draw. And if it kind of going more minion centric, you can't run the Refreshing Spring Water. And even if you are running all these spells, Mage has so much other removal with Devolving Missiles, with just using Ruined Orb, Combustion, Shooting Star with spell damage, that this ends up being quite expensive, both in resources and in cost, to run a card like this. So I don't think it will see much play, unfortunately. And then finally, another freezing synergy card, we have Flowcaster. So this is cost 2 less for every frozen enemy. So obviously you kind of want this would start being good once it hits cost 2, considering the effect. For the payoff, it has to be consistently getting it to cost 2. 4 is okay, but it's meh. Yeah, there's other things you can do to get powerful minions on board. So you'd need to be playing like Flurry and this, but Flurry, you need to get to turn 5 for that to be able to happen. Otherwise, you need to be playing multiple frost spells, like a Brain Freeze, but not to kill, which sometimes you'd be making awkward use of it, then specifically not killing so that you can have a frozen. I guess the idea is that if you are generating elementals that freeze with your Rhyme Tongues, with your Frostweave Dungeoneer, that maybe you could get enough frozen enemies for this to work out, but that just doesn't happen in reality. But another cool minion potential tool. It would be cool. I think we've all been waiting for Freeze at some point to perhaps have enough synergy for it to work, but it's never quite come together in terms of minion-based Freeze Mage. Freeze Mage, of course, in the past with Frost Nova, you could do to finish with burn damage, but a kind of minion-based Freeze Mage never really came to work, unfortunately. And I think once again they've given cool tools, but just not enough for it to fully work. So Mage is a bit meh, but I'll certainly have fun trying to experiment with theory crafting for ways to make Mage work. And maybe you could even just have a Wildfire based deck where you use the Dungeoneer just to draw that spell to get your Apprentice Mordress deck working. Again, mostly minion based. But that's it for Mage, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.